Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Ahagao Comics. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early and lots of other goodies, and it would really help us out. Thanks for your support, everyone. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's time once again to talk about Star Wars X-Wing 2nd Edition by Fantasy Flight Games. Yeah, we're back to a classic of this channel. Been doing this for a long time, which is, wave reveals. Yeah. So at Gencon, they announced what Wave 2 of X-Wing 2nd Edition will be. At least for the moment. You never know. They might squeak some more titles in there. It's kind of what happened with the first wave, with a couple of things. So we'll cover all that and a little bit of stuff here and there. You can also check out our other video on it I threw out a video real quick to talk about all the announcements related to a lot of Star Wars related stuff. And also, sometime before this, there should have been a video on Legion if that's your speed. But anyway, let's talk about X-Wing stuff. So, I'm not gonna throw up detailed images or anything on here, and we're not gonna talk about it a lot. I don't like to talk about the conversion kits really, because there's so much content to cover and it takes so long, and at the same time it's also shit gets spoiled in an unofficial format, so there's crappy images and stuff. Anyway, we'll not focus on it, but I will mention that the wave includes the First Order and Resistance conversion kits for only $30. We've gotten some preview image spreads, so we can see Blackout survived, Kylo survived. Kylo is now I-5. I assume that's across the board for both his selves now. They seem to have settled on putting him somewhere in between. We know that Supreme Leader Snoke will be a crew card, a double crew. We know that Captain Phasma will be a crew card. There is a Special Forces gunner who appears to have a function similar to the rule with SF ties, and also given the way that the RZ-2 functions, I think it will have that effect, so it can have a turret effect, kind of, but only to the rear arc, so you can basically put your turret weapon in your front arc or your back arc, and the Special Forces gunner will synergize with that, and who knows, it might even, in fact, probably it would. At the very least, it should be, given the art, be First Order exclusive, but who knows. Anyway, I'm not here to talk about it too much. And it looks like Quick Draw's art's still in, and we can see a tech upgrade called Hyperspace Tracking Data. We'll see what it is. I think that's the new, Hyperwave comm scanner or something. Anyway. So that's the First Order kit. We can also see a little bit about the Resistance kit, which shows us off some stuff, which is in here somewhere. I have to, close my image viewer and open it again, because I added the data link. Don't know, hold on. Give me a second. Anyway, okay, there it is. So yeah, so we can see in that, Han Solo shows up as an I-6. We'll talk about Poe later. The T-70 appears to have an S-foils configuration. Finn appears as a gunner. Rose Tico appears as a crew card. We can see a couple of other pilots, one of the unique pilots for SF Bomber, which will probably be the MG-100 Star Fortress now, even though apparently both are correct. Who knows? Anyway, we can see another T-70 pilot, the old Prime Thrusters art, I think, because Prime Thrusters has a new art now for a different thing. And Chewie's still in there, Resistance Chewie, and all that stuff. Really neat. We'll talk about that later. There's some other spreads and stuff that some people have uploaded, but they're not in the official article, which is primarily what we're focusing on, is the articles, because whatever, we're not even talking about conversion kits, because that's, like I said, that's a huge pain in the butt with all the spoilers and unboxings and whatevers. Okay, let's move into actual content that is announced, because Wave 2, in addition to the conversion kits, will include the TIE-FO, the T-70 X-Wing. By the way, the TIE-FO is for First Order and T-70 is for Resistance, in case that wasn't obvious. Also for the Resistance, the RZ-2 A-Wing, and then for Scum, the Mining Guild TIE, even though it's called Modified TIE Fighter. We'll get into that. Alright, let's go into the TIE-FO first. Again first. So the new TIE-FO expansion pack, pretty similar to the old one. They have 3 hull, they have 1 shield, they have focus, evade, target lock, and barrel roll, which is the same action set they have in the original. That's right. I actually own TIE-FOs because I bought the... Yeah, okay, that's that. I was about to say, I actually own TIE-FOs because I bought the blue pack, the second core, so I should know. But I don't remember. Anyway, they've got the exact same dial, all the same maneuvers, in the same difficulties. They have 2 attack forward, 3 agility, hull, and 1 shield. So nothing much has changed there. We can presume, based on what they show in the preview, that the upgrades are the same. They probably have at least 1 modification slot. They have a tech slot of some variety, and they have, some of them at least, have a talent slot. We'll talk about what their talent is later. But yeah, that's basically what you got for base stats. It's the TIE-FO. Presumably it will be slightly more expensive than a vanilla TIE Fighter, but not by a long shot, and maybe it'll be more precise. I believe the conversion kit comes with enough dials and stuff to support 7 of them, so, and we can see a couple of cards here. So Zeta Ace is now long shot, with Zeta Ace being the subtitle, and their ability reads, when you perform a primary attack at range 3, roll 1 additional attack die, so that's cool. You can actually take long shots. and they're range 3. There's also named pilot Lieutenant Rivas, an inconvenient witness, which I assume is the cute TIFO pilot who Captain Phasma shoots, because Phasma's actually a huge bitch, and you should never like her. But, it says something, if a ship at range 2 gains a red or orange token, if you do not have that ship locked, I think you may acquire a lock on that ship. I assume that's probably to enable targeting synchronizer, which we'll be talking about later, because tech. But anyway, like I said, we'll get into that in a second. Let's talk about the pilots that have been shown for the TIFO, then we'll talk about one of the upgrades, at least. So first, let's talk about Muse, the old Epsilon leader, still Epsilon leader, but now also has the name Muse, TIFO fighter, all that. Now, obviously, we have no idea about points, because I don't think we've posted the points sheet yet. Blech. But they're an I-2 pilot, and their ability reads, at the start of the engagement phase, you may choose a friendly ship at range 0 to 1, that means you can include yourself. If you do, that ship removes 1 stress token. So, you know, a little supportive, get a little stress off, useful for certain types of flying with TIFOs. Not really much else to talk about with Muse. We're gonna get into the big one, don't you worry. Don't you worry, everybody. I will say, though, no upgrade bars and no point costs means talking about individual pilots is a lot shorter, if there's nothing super special to talk about their abilities. Hey, speaking of super special abilities, let's talk about Midnight, aka Omega Leader. Yes, they are back. They are now on I-6, and presumably they will be one of the I-2 future I-6 pilots for the First Order, and one of the 2 that they have at, Wave 1. Sorry, took me a second to remember my thingy blobs. So, the ability is the same. When you defend or perform an attack, if you have a lock on the enemy ship, that ship's dice cannot be modified. With a maximum I level, you know, I-6, there's very few in this quality, and there's no way to get up there. This is going to be a primo endgame ship, and I expect that the points will be adjusted accordingly. That said, it's still a TIFO platform. It's entirely probable that they will not be super expensive. I think Midnight's still Heat, despite the fact that much like you might expect, Midnight sounds like maybe a lady's name, but it's Midnight. Yeah, whatever. Though I think they said that Muse, aka Epsilon Leader. Anyway, there's not too much to dwell on. Omega Leader was super critical to the game in the previous edition, and now, especially as the Wave 1 I-6, or the Wave 2 I-6, the starting wave for First Order, they're gonna do a lot of work, I think, starting off the bat. A great reintroduction to the faction. So before we jump ships, let's talk really quick about Fanatical, which is the First Order's special talent, pilot talent, which is available to them. Basically reads, when you perform a primary attack, if you are not shielded, you may change 1 focus result to a hit result. Pretty simple, emphasizes, I think, their style. They are willing to get hurt, get damaged, to get their job done, to defeat the enemy. Pretty standard, got an okay type art. And yeah, it'll be interesting, I think, on a lot of their higher level pilots. I mean, like, you know, throw this on like Midnight, and hey, you lose that 1 shield, you'll get a free focus out of it, you know, or basically a free calculate, I should say. And it could be fun, especially depending on how it's point costed. I don't remember off the top of my head what the point costs for stuff like Ruthless and Selfless are like right now, and Fearless. Anyway, let's move on to the RZ-2A, because it's alphabetically above the T-70, and I don't know why I talked about the TIFO first then. But this is how my notes are written, so deal with it. So, the thing about the RZ-2A Wing is we don't actually have its baseline stats. Literally, a shot of just one of the pilots is not in the announcement article for Wave 2. Like, it's just not in there. I checked. So we can assume, I think, based on, let's see, is there any actual, like... I think there are, like, some images that were grabbed at, like, Gencon and stuff. Let me see. Better in the Resistance, like, art pack? No, not at all. Okay. So... we know from, like, Gencon that people say that it's got, like, 2 attacks still. I assume it's got the same, like, hull ratio, and I'll check, because I wasn't thinking about this, but later, let me double check. T-70 is the X-Wing. Okay, so the T-70 is +1 shield. It's 3 shields instead of 2 shields. So the 2.0 X-Wing is 4 hull, 2 shields. So that probably means that the RZ-2A Wing is gonna be 2 hull, 3 shields, probably, but I'm not sure. If somebody has seen a clear image, once again, going mostly off just what's in the articles, we'll see what's going on there. Let's see, is there anything else? I don't think in the article, you definitely don't see their full action bar. I think people have said that you can definitely see focus evade target lock in the supplement, and they also have roll and boost, supposedly, so I think that's the same, but also they have the ability to rotate arc, because the big feature we definitely know about the RZ2 is that it's a rotating arc ship, basically, and it's still 2 attack, but you can only rotate your arc to the front and back. You can't do the sides, but they do have gimbaled weapons, so they can shoot both front and back, which is a pretty neat ability. And then we know from their Refined Gyro Stabilizer's ability, which is their new ship ability, you can only rotate your target, your rotate arc indicator, your turret indicator, to your front and rear. And then, basically, after you perform an action, you can boost or you can rotate arc and get a stress token. I assume their normal rotate is probably... So that's a really neat ability. In addition to having the ability to do a boost if they need to, they can also flip around their guns to point rear just on any action. Very neat. Lots of efficiency. We see 2 pilots for sure, Luolo Lampar and Taliesin Lintra, or Tally. Both are I-5s. Rip in peace, Tally. So, oh, and I should point out, let's see, let me double check this. Compared to... Alright, so checking it, the dial is the exact same as a regular A-Wing, but they have the blue, the 3 banks are blue now. They are white normally on a regular A-Wing. Everything else is the same. So they've got a little bit more flexibility, pretty typical for a resistance upgrade to a rebel ship. They also have tech upgrades because we can see prime thrusters in the spread, and we'll talk about that in a second. Also, presumably they still have missile slots because that's the thing. So, Lulo, I don't know how to handle the apostrophe in there. Lulo has the ability that says, when you defend or perform a primary attack, if you are stressed, you must roll 1 fewer defense dice or 1 additional attack dice. So, if you're stressed, you get an additional attack die, but you get 1 less agility die when that time comes. Basically a built-in expose effect. Pretty neat, I think. Especially with this thing's like double actions. You want to be very careful about your positioning. You probably want to use the RZ2 as kind of an arc dodger. And then Tally's ability is, while an enemy ship in your bullseye performs an attack, you may spend 1 charge. If you do, the defender rolls 1 additional die. So basically, she's an I-5 and she's a support type. If somebody is shooting at anybody, includes you, and they're in your bullseye arc, you can spend a charge, and we don't know, based on the spread anyway, we don't know what her charges are. But the defender rolls 1 additional die, so that's pretty neat. Also, you can see the full text of Heroic, which is the resistance. Sorry, blanking out a little on some of these. There's a lot of information for me to process. But Heroic is the Resistance's special pilot talent, and when you defend or perform an attack, if you have only blank results, and 2 or more results, you may reroll any number of your dice. Somebody has already crunched the math. This is not as good on attack dice as it is on defense dice, but still very valuable thing. So basically, if you blank out and you're not planning on spending any of your blank dice on some kind of effect, you can reroll them for free. Not as helpful as it could be, but hopefully it's priced proportionately. Can be a real help, especially for the RZ2, which is a, 3 agility, probably pretty flimsy ship, which will want to avoid blanking out those green dice. Let us move into primed thrusters then, because you can see most of it in the spread, and we have the full text of the card. So, primed thrusters, basically unchanged from 1E, though it's been reined in a little. I believe it was 3 in the first one, so now it's a tech upgrade that says when you have 2 or fewer stress tokens, you can perform boost and barrel rolls actions even while stressed. Great for the RZ2, because that means you could perform actions. You could, still boost and barrel roll, which I believe means you can still reposition. You can still double reposition, because you can roll then boost. Even if you're stressed, because you'll still have 1. And with the amount of blue they have on their dial, it should be pretty easy to clear a lot of that out. Very useful. Also, obviously, will still be applicable to the T-70, which we'll be talking about right about now. Not much else to say on Prime. So, the new T-70. We can see from Poe later that the ship is mostly unchanged. We'll cover a little bit of that in a second. But basically, you have focus, target lock, and boost. You have 3 forward attack, 2 agility, 4 hull, 3 shields now. And we know for sure that it has its own version of S-foils, which appears to give it the barrel roll option when they're closed. We don't know what else it does. Presumably it does the same as the other stuff. The dial is fundamentally the same as its 1.0 version, except also, like the regular X-Wings, they have blue 2 banks now. So that's pretty normal. We have seen a couple in there. We can see Lieutenant Bastian is the optimistic analyst, which gives them the ability, which is an I-2 pilot who has, after the ship at range 1 to 2 is dealt a damage card, you may immediately acquire a lock on that ship, so that helps you, like, sync up for pilots, especially because X-Wings can carry torpedoes, and actually they can carry lots of things. We'll talk about that in just a second. That's a pretty good ability. Actually, it's a ship ability, so we should probably talk about it first. But X-Wings, or T-70 X-Wings, now have basically the same ability as Seeks. They have weapon hardpoint, which means they can equip a cannon, torpedo, or missile upgrade slot. And I'm presuming that they might not have regular torpedo slots then. You might have to pick. That would be very interesting, but I think the idea is basically they can take cannons and maybe torpedoes or missiles in the same space, which would be really interesting. Gives them a unique identity over the villain at X-Wing. Gives the Resistance a lot of flexibility that they could use right now, because they're a very slim faction, and I don't know how fast we're necessarily going to replenish that up, because, like, you know, X-Wing was drawn on stuff like in the EU, and in, like, comics and novels, and especially Star Wars Galaxies for quite a while, and may do so again in the future. So I don't know how robust the Resistance will be right off the bat, especially since we're adding 2 more factions. We can see targeting synchronizer here, but also they spoil it later. Same with Poe's ability. We'll talk about that in a second. There's not really anything else to know about X-Wings, other than that Black One returns as a title. It gives you a white slam action, and says after you perform a slam action, you lose 1 charge. Then you may gain 1 ion token to remove 1 disarm token. So basically, you can slam, and then you don't have to take the disarm token if you don't want. You can take an ions token instead. If your charge is inactive, you cannot perform the slam action. And I think there are some ways, some other ways to get back your charges. I wouldn't be surprised if, for instance, BB-8 maybe does that instead of barrel rolling. It lets you get back, like, maybe you can move a charge off BB units to put a charge back on one of your other upgrades. But otherwise, yeah, it's a one-time slam, and then you can still shoot after, in that case, if you so choose. Very interesting. Kind of puts them in a weird space similar to, or Black One at least puts its T-70 in a weird space similar to, like, a souped-up gunboat. It's very interesting. Other than that, really, like I said, not a lot to talk about. They're still fundamentally X-Wings with a little bit more health. They got 1 more shield. They have a different upgrade option, and they have a little bit more upgrade flexibility with that weapon hardpoint. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, they're still X-Wings. Let's talk about Poe, then. And so, Poe Dameron, the trigger-happy flyboy, returns at I-6. He has the ability that reads, after you perform an action, you may spend 1 charge to perform a white action, treating it as red. And then he has 1 charge that regenerates. So, Poe's special ability is he has classic PTL, kinda. He can still only do it once per round, and he has to perform what is a white action to him. So if you're doing something else that gives you, like, a red action, you can't quite, like, if you have, like, another upgrade that gives you a red action, you can't quite do it. Like, if you put Debris Gambit on him, that's normally red, you can't just throw an evade on there all the time. It has to be white to start, and then you treat it like a red. That's probably why you can't do it when it's already... If you were already going to get stretched, you can't do it. But otherwise, very useful. Not quite like full-blown PTL and stuff. Like, and it's not as crazy as, say, Darth Vader is, because he's got, like, 3 force charge, so he can take a fuckload of actions every turn. But still very useful, very AC. I think it's very solid for the X-Wing to have that capability, but still, you're probably limited to... maybe a double reposition if you've got your foils closed, which hurts your, like, regular attack ability. Though I've heard some people wondering if maybe they can do, like, HLC Poe, which maybe you can. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Also, I'm expecting Poe's probably going to be pretty costly. Like, X-Wings are not necessarily chump change, but also this has, like, +1 shield, and shields are pretty valuable in this game, it seems. And, he's got a great ability at I-6. I expect he's going to be costly. But anyway, it's very useful. I expect people are going to do some fun stuff like comboing into a target lock and then a slam or something, or maybe a focus slam, and then, you know, using some kind of optional ordnance or something. You can ditch the weapon disable for an ion, and ion moves are blue moves now because they don't want you to get, like, locked so you can't do completely anything. Also, I've said this before when talking about Luke for, like, force tokens, but if by the time, like, we move on to the next edition of X-Wing or X-Wing Crashes and Burns or whatever, if there's not some ability or upgrade or something that's like, can't spend charge tokens or remove a charge token from the targeted ship, I'll eat my hat. Because, like, that's totally a design space you could get, especially since a lot of them regenerate. Anyway, let's move into targeting synchronizer, because that's another thing we have. And so, targeting synchronizer returns. It uses the old weapon guidance art. And that's because Advanced Optics now has Weapon Guidance's effect. I presume that's what will happen to something with Sensor Cluster's effect. I think it was Sensor Cluster, right? Because Comm Relay was keep it. So now we're not doing that anymore, apparently. Anyway, Targeting Synchronizer requires that it's a tech upgrade that requires you have a target lock, and it reads, while a friendly ship at range 1 to 2 performs an attack against a target you have locked, that ship ignores the target lock attack requirement, which I'm pretty sure is the same thing as Targeting Synchronizer did in 1E, only now it's a lot simpler. Very useful to enable low PS target locks. Basically, if you catch the opponent you want, so long as you only have one ship that's got the target lock, you can make sure you're on arc with those guys who go first. I should say not PS initiative, but you know what I mean. I'm very good about saying that they're whatever number pilots, but the terminology is still confusing. Anyway, Targeting Synchronizer, really good now, limited almost entirely to 2 factions, and then 1 ship in 1 faction, unless we get more future tech Scum. Scum's gonna be a little weird now that Clone Wars stuff is announced. I'm, expecting there might be, Scum Jango Fett who can hang out with Scum Boba Fett, and fucking Unkar Plot in a space tug with, like I said, Targeting Synchronizer or some other fucking tech upgrade. It's a little weird, but whatever. That's what happens when you do, this big faction thing. The extra factions aren't bad. It's just going to be funny on the table sometimes. Anyway, that's Targeting Synchronizer. Let's move into our final ship that's announced for Wave 2 of 2nd Edition, the Mining Guild TIE. Been a while since we had an episode this long, huh? Well, that's what happens when they do big frickin' wave announcements. I'm used to doing news videos for Legion where they, announce 2 expansion packs a month, as opposed to, 2 conversion kits and 4 expansion packs? Yeah. They're announcing 6 products all at once. Anyway, let's move into the Mining Guild TIE. So, the modified TIE LN fighter. Really sad they didn't use TIE/MG like they did in the RPG. Maybe somebody somewhere in Lucasfilm licensing or Disney said, no, don't do that. I guess it's consistent with the way they treat the Falcon. Whatever. I don't like it. I think it's a little weak sauce. Anyway, we can see from the 1 pilot we have spoiled that it's still 2 attack, still 3 agility, 3 hull, and then it's got focus, evade, barrel roll, and then every single one of them has the ability to notch stabilizers. While you move, you ignore asteroids. Note, just asteroid. Not debris clouds, and not other kinds of obstacles that may happen, just asteroids. Still an interesting ability. We know that there's a I-2 generic, and we know that there's another unique pilot called Have, and then we know that we've got an I-6 pilot, Captaincy War, the nosy nuisance. Thanks, X-Wing guys, and we know that the pack comes with trick shot, so at least one of these things has a pilot talent, and then it comes with static discharge vein, so it's got at least 1 modification, probably. And the dial is functionally the same as a TIE Fighter, except it lost its 4K turn, it only has a 3K turn, and its 5 straight is red. So, not as agile, just as fragile, but with an interesting ability so that it retains mobility in tight quarters, at least if you're using asteroid. I expect that basically for Scum, these are going to start fulfilling the role of light seeks. They're not going to bother around with a different configuration for the Seek Fighter, or if they do, it'll probably do something more impressive other than just be cheaper, especially considering that that squad point stuff is in-app, so yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we now have the modified TIE Fighter to be the Mining Guild TIE, and fulfill a cheap blocker and or swarm rule for Scum. Slightly different from how those are. But I expect, given the way, especially with the 1 pilot ability we can see works, and their ability to ignore obstacles, they're going to be a little bit different. It's going to be kind of like the Rebel TIE Fighter. So let's talk about Captaincy War real quick, and that'll round out our lovely episode. So, as mentioned, Captaincy War is our I-3 pilot. It's the highest initiative we've seen for the TIE-MG right now. Noisy Nuisance has the ability, which is, while you defend or perform an attack, before attack dice are rolled, if you are not in the enemy ship's bullseye arc, you may spend 1 charge, which he has, which 1 charge and regenerates, so once per round you can do this. If you do, the enemy ship gains 1 jam token. So first of all, it's a great way to throw around jam tokens. Might make targets not want to attack you, because that might block them up for later. Jam tokens don't persist, unless you've got that 1 unit, which is exclusive to Imperials right now, but still, this is a clever way to throw them around, and it could, jam up their ability to hurt you or to defend if you want to make your 2 attack dice count. And remember, these guys can throw in Fearless, because they're Scum, and I'm assuming if he's I-3, he's probably got a pilot talent, he's the captain, who the fuck knows? But yeah, you can probably do some fun stuff right there. Don't really have any other thoughts on the Mining Guild TIE. I mean, they did do stuff, they made the maneuver dial a little different. They've given it a ship ability. I think they've done what I wanted FFG to do if they did this ship unit. And judging by at least the one pilot ability we see, they've got kind of a different ethos than how regular Imperial TIEs are. So I think that now all Resistance needs is their TIE Fighter equivalent, and then everybody will be happy. Everybody will use a TIE Fighter in different ways. That's probably not going to happen, though, because the Republic and CIS won't get TIE Fighters. No, instead, the CIS will have probably multiple cheapo calculate-based ships. Anyway, we shall see. I will talking about those things later as they come out. Let's move into the outro. So obviously we have come to the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed all that. That was a lot of news to cover, but hey, that's how X-Wing Wave announcements go. They, like I said earlier, they release a lot of they announce a lot of products they're going to release. There's a lot of news to cover. I will be hitting these up as new preview articles come out because obviously these are semi-new. I mean, so like the TIE-FO re-release and the T-70 is a re-release, so I don't know if we will in detail cover those necessarily. We'll have to see if like the Resistance... If, once again, the Resistance kits come out and they've got all the stuff in them already, there's nothing to talk about, really, that's not, like, covered and analyzed by somebody, like, weeks ago, We'll see. That's kind of how I treated a lot of Wave 1 articles. But we will once again see what comes up, and maybe they'll have new upgrades and stuff we can still talk about. Otherwise, we'll leave it be. Even so, definitely probably talking more about the RZ2, and probably talk about the Mining Guild tie. And you guys be sure to let me know if you want me to, like, touch on conversion kits and stuff, because that... Covering all that doesn't really excite me because it's a lot of reading and stuff, and it's hard to analyze all at once because then these videos take forever, and I don't really run an X-Wing podcast. It's just me doing stuff in front of my microphone. But hey, if you guys want that type of content, we can explore it. Anyway, I'll go ahead and let you guys go. This video has already gone on quite long for what we do normally on the channel at this stage. Though I think it was my original Wave, 12 video was like an hour. I really needed to break it up. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a like. Also, if you have any comments about any of this, leave those in the comment section down below. Your thoughts on any of these, expansion pack, conversion kits, other content, let me know stuff. You can also talk to us on our Discord, that link's in the description. If you are new here and if not already, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to keep track of our content. Also, even if you're already subscribed, don't forget to the bell for notifications so you can know right away when we post a video. Because obviously, sometimes it's not easy to tell when we're going to post videos about certain. You can also, as it says at the front of the show, support us on Patreon. It's a great way to get access to our episodes early and just, make me feel better about my life and let me keep doing this content that you enjoy, theoretically. That's about it. So, with all that said, I guess happy flying, everybody. And I'll see you whenever X-Wing releases news that I care about once again. Thanks for your time, everybody.